Hello, my name's David Nabi, and I'm in a hotel room recording an introduction to design thinking. I've been asked to do this seminar in 20 minutes. Actually, this is a recreation of a seminar that I did in November in Canada, Ontario, Canada, for November 6th for Tech Tuesday. And this is a group of engineers. I did it actually for a group of 20 engineers calling themselves Pre-Tech Tuesday. And they meet monthly, and they're a group of entrepreneurial engineers who wanted an introduction in 20 minutes, so I'm going to try my best. So there are two key insights that they had that I wanted to share with you. All right, so welcome. What I started out with was a scenario. I'm an engineer. They're all engineers. So I said, hey, I broke my briefcase this morning. The shoulder strap came off. And I showed them the shoulder strap. And I said, can you guys help me? You're all engineers. What's the best way to solve this problem? Well, there were several immediate suggestions. They took a look. It was a kind of a male-female coupling. And the first guy said, hey, why don't we just take a hammer and hammer that female end closed or shut so that it will stick and won't come out. Somebody else said, let's take the male end and shave it down, make it bigger so that it will stick. We'll fit it in. Somebody else said, hey, let's tie a rope or a shoelace from one end of the shoulder strap to the laptop carrying case. In this way, it'll be functional. There were other people that said, well, why do you need the shoulder strap? Why don't you just make do with the handles? So these are all great solutions that you would expect engineers to have. I mean, this is, how we are taught as professionals to solve problems, to jump to solutions. So professionals, engineers, doctors, lawyers, professional accountants, we're all trained to come to solutions. That's what we get paid for. We draw on our experience and we come up with solutions. But what if you went to the hospital with a small cut on your hand and the doctor said, well, let's amputate it. That seems like the most reasonable thing to do. That'll get rid of your problem. We would call this, jumping to a solution based on a symptom, not on the underlying problem. So this is the same theory that design thinking takes advantages of. It requires you to understand the problem before jumping to solutions. Most of us are trained in school on the scientific method. What's the scientific method? Identify the problem, generate alternatives, maybe think of some constraints, find the pros and cons of each alternative, generate a recommendation, and implement the recommendation. So most of the effort that professionals are taught is spent on generating alternatives and finding the solution. Indeed, I lost half of my audience immediately in this small group in the seminar when I asked them to come up with solutions for my problem with my laptop bag. Immediately, discussion broke out at 2 or 3 tables about the details and intricacies and implementation problems of certain solutions. So this is how we're trained. We spend most of our time on this. Business people also have fallen into this trap. So we were taught in business school when I grew up that you need to come up with a business case approach. So a business case approach is a business adaptation of the scientific method. And indeed, we were taught to do business plans based on detailed months of analysis and research of statistics through Canadian government and other sources, chambers of commerce, research, put numbers together, make 10-year, 5-year projections. This is how we were taught to do business cases and business plans. But what happened is we found that all this theory and all this study couldn't replicate real life. And it wasn't providing a guarantee of success for businesses. So for example, we had Nokia. In 2007, they were the leading cell phone manufacturer in the world, and in 2010, they were bankrupt. So why did this happen? They had brilliant engineers who were designing products. They had their business plans that controlled costs, but the missing element was the customer. So in the last decade, we've come to understand that thinking about the customer is a little more important. And this doesn't lead to success if we ignore the customer and think, as professionals mostly, we know the solution. We just have to hammer it into the customer's head. All right. So Stanford University took the lead on this. More than a decade ago, from their design school, their D school, they came up with this design thinking approach for business issues. So what was the D school? It was a group of industrial designers who were used to actually talking to the customer before designing products. Somebody has a product, the idea, they say, hey, I need help to design it so that it's functional for the customer. Out of this came the idea that we should really understand the customer's needs before we do anything else. All right, so then Stanford University took this and applied it to business, and the design thinking approach was born. So how did I get introduced to it? I'm an older CPA, and I worked at chartered accounting firms in Canada, and as a controller, and I grew up with the scientific method approach. But I was teaching overseas at a college, business college, that taught Stanford University's Innovation and Entrepreneurship course, and we were trained by the faculty at Stanford University on design thinking, and I became a convert. So now we're going to look at the basic 5 steps of design thinking, and I'm going to try and make you a convert of design thinking as an approach to solving business problems. So the 5 steps focus on the customer. So what you need to do is forget everything that you think about the problem, everything that you assume about customers, and just go on the data. You need to go just on what you listen to and derive directly from the customers. So that's the basics of this approach. So I'm going to put up only online a 5-step chart. And hopefully you'll see that this is an approach to use for painful problems. So this is not going to be a useful approach for you to solve problems. For example, we need a new region for sales. Which one should it be? This is for painful problems that you're having in your business. You just don't understand. You've had all your best people on the problem, and still you can't understand what the issue is. Why are people not buying our product? Why are we going bankrupt? Why are our sales flat? This is the kind of problem that design thinking can solve. So the first step is to empathize. So this is called the first step. Empathy is a kind of a currently popular concept. If you've studied emotional intelligence, then empathy is a large part of emotional intelligence. Empathy is an innate concept, but in business problem solving, it has been underrated so far. So what does it mean? You're not simply going to imagine yourself in your customer's shoes or survey their opinions via SurveyMonkey or something like that. You're actually going just with a blank mind and going to listen to them. So in this first step of empathize, this means empathize with your customers. I've coined the phrase ROI. So this is the new ROI. This is the most important ROI for your business. Research, observe, interview. These are the 3 steps, the 3 parts of the first step, how to develop empathy with your customers. So research. So you have a general problem. Let's say we have a coffee shop, and the coffee shop, we notice business is going down. We want to find why. You know, there's two coffee shops on the same block. One is always doing well, one is not doing as well. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Traditionally, what would we do? Well, we would go and we would probably say, hey, they have a big sign. Why don't we have a big sign? Hey, they are open 7 to 11. Why don't we stay open 7 to 11 or 6 to 12? You know? Oh, they're offering this product. Why don't we start to offer this product? So this is a normal approach if you're in business. But the first step is research. So we have a general problem. We need to research it. This is kind of a normal step, but we're not going to take months and months to research. In school, when we're teaching this as a project for class, we have 4 people in a group. Obviously, if you have a business, you'll have more people perhaps in your groups. We have 1 person doing the research, 1 person doing the observation, and 2 people doing the interview. The reason we have 2 people doing the interview is that one can talk and engage with the customer, and the other one can make notes. And then they can switch it up. So research. So what? You're going to research to understand the problem. So you're going to find research studies about the problem, maybe in other countries, maybe similar problem in other industries. You're going to contact your competitors in a business association or chamber of commerce. You're going to say, hey, we're having this problem. Are you having this problem? What's going on? How did you deal with it? So you're going to research, research, research. And the main thing that you're going to do is you're going to try and find, and this is the hard part. It all sounds easy up until now. What's new? So you need to find 10 aspects of this problem that surprise you. So you need to find 10 things that you did not know about this problem through research. That's how you know when you're done. In school, we used to say 3. We gave them a couple of weeks and we only asked for 3. But really, you need to find 7 to 10 aspects of this problem that are new for you, surprising to you. About, hey, our coffee sales are not going as well as we thought. And you're going to find out from research studies, your competitors, other industries, why customers stop shopping or don't buy. All right, so that's more kind of a traditional role. The next one is observation. Now this is very difficult, especially for professionals. What does it mean? You are just going to go and sit in the coffee shop for hours and just observe. So you're not going to talk to anybody. You're not going to spot problems and make solutions. All you're going to do is observe and write down your observations. Note your observations. So you're going to do this in person, and you're going to make note of facts. You're not going to make a note of opinions. You're not going to make note of solutions. You're not going to make note of your assumptions, just facts. If you have an online product and you can't do it in person, you're going to go online and you're going to review comments. You're going to go on your website. You're going to go on social media blogs. You're going to go to social media influencers, see what people are talking about your problem. This is observation. Again, you're going to come up with 7 to 10 things that surprise you from doing this. That's how you know when you're done. Hours, days, weeks, depends on your skill in observation. The last step is interview. So interview means you're going to get outside. This was the problem of Nokia. They didn't get outside. They had their engineers in the basement working on solutions and technology. They didn't get outside. You're going to get outside. You're going to interview people. If it's a coffee shop, you're going to ask them before they go in, interview some of them. Why are you here? What are you going to buy? And on the way out, you're going to interview people. So pre-purchase and post-purchase. You're going to interview people. And again, if you're online, you can ask questions. You can create an account, you know, coffee guy, and you can send social media inquiries to different people who post online. There's 3 tools you're going to use. We don't have time to go into them today. One is the why tool. This is an approach. Another one is called a journey map. And the last one is the say, think, do, feel canvas. These are great tools for interviewing especially. So in this step, you are going to develop empathy with your customers. This is the most important ROI of your business: research, observe, interview. And you are just collecting raw data. Now step 2 is called define. So here what you're going to do is you're going to start to interpret your ROI. What you need to do at the end is come up with the most painful part of the problem that you started with, in your opinion. So your point of view of the most painful part of the problem. So for each of the ROI, you've got 7 to 10 aspects of the problem. Now, what you need to do with each one is that for each one, list what is the customer need associated with this observation that you made. Then you need to define what business insight you're getting from this. This is almost an impossible step without some training. So it's really hard just to clear your mind and think, what is the customer need associated with this problem? And what is the business insight? So for an example, when you're doing your observation, you might see, hey, no women are coming to buy coffee at night in my store. So this is just what you're going to write down when you're doing the ROI. Now you're in the definition stage and you're going to think, well, what is the customer need associated with this? Well, you know, women are trying to buy coffee, but there are long lines of drunken men, and they aren't able to buy coffee because of this. They're not feeling safe. This is the business insight. Women are not feeling safe in your business because there's long lines of drunken men. So you need to find now 7 to 10 business insights. So the customer need is, what is your customer trying to do? And the business insight is, what did you learn new? Has to be something new. So these 7 to 10 insights need to be new things, not things that you previously knew. So you're going to be very specific. After you finish this, then you're going to get together with your group. So the R and the O and the I people are going to all get together. And you're going to pick 1 or 2 or 3 of these insights, depending on the size of your group. If it's a small group, just pick 1. And you're going to say, this is the most painful problem that you have. And you're going to put it, rephrase it into 1 sentence in this format. You're going to first say the customer name. So in this case, it would be, let's say, women. And then you're going to say, they need a way to, and say, what's the customer need? So they need a way to buy coffee at night. And the last part is, because, why? Because of your business insight. So in this case, because the women do not feel safe in our store. So in other words, the sentence that we're getting, the most painful part of this problem of our sales are dropping, is that women need to find a way to buy coffee at night because they do not currently feel safe in our store. Now this is a problem that you can work on. Now this process takes months or weeks or days. Take as much time as you need to get the 7 to 10 insights and bring it down to 1. So you have to be totally convinced this is the most painful part of the problem that your business is having. Now you're ready to move on to the last 3 steps. These are more traditional, but in design thinking, they move fast. So the 3rd step is ideate. So there are some traditional ideation tools, thinking of ideas, brainstorming. The one I like to use is called Good, Bad, Worst. There'll be another webinar where I discuss these tools. So what you're doing, for example, you're going to quickly make, from the work that you've done before, you're going to either draw, let's say, 5 ways to meet the customer needs that you've identified. Or you can use arts and crafts. In class we have glue and paper and aluminum and cardboard and everything, and we ask them to actually make pictures and make models of what they think the customers need. Then you're going to share your ideas with people, customers, and you're going to capture 5 of the basic things that your customers really identify with. So there are tools to do this. There's the value proposition canvas, which is a traditional tool that identifies customer activities and needs and gain creators and pain relievers. This is discussed in many workshops. I won't go into detail there. So once you have your ideas, you're going to quickly make a prototype. This is step 4, prototype. You're going to quickly make a minimum viable product, MVP, from your ideation, from the basic 5 requirements. No constraints. You're just going to provide full benefits. So you're building quickly to learn quickly in prototype. Doesn't have to be out of the right material. Doesn't have to be the right manufacturer. Don't wait for cheap manufacturing in China. You're just making them quickly. The last step, number 5, is test. You're just going to start selling this MVP. I know it's not perfect, but you're just going to start selling it everywhere you can. Even though it's not perfect, even though it's costing too much to manufacture, even though you don't have a perfect design. You want to have a short cycle with real customers paying real money. So this is the key. Real customers paying real money. And only in this way will you be able to refine your solution. Once you do this, there's a cycle over and over. You'll use, again, empathy when you're talking to your customers so that you can learn, particularly observation and interviewing. And in this process, you might have to go back to the ideation stage if it's not small adjustments that you can make. And finally, you'll get to the point where you'll refine your value proposition canvas, which is what is the thing that really stands out that you are doing to solve the most painful part of the problem for your customer. And then in the end, you'll go on to use what we call the business model canvas in order to make sure you have a great business idea. But the key in design thinking is the customer, customer, customer. So spend a lot of time on your customers and don't jump to conclusions. And that is the end of the webinar, a short 23-minute introduction to design thinking.